That's me. I'm Josh Wolf, the host. And also, right next to me here on your screen, Tom Jump's couch. And in Tom Jump's couch is TJump, all the way from the United States of America. And today in the blue corner, the battler, we have Sidarth, who is dialing in from, you're in the United States as well?
That's right. I'm from Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. And militia country, I hear. You don't look like a militia member to me, though. Not a typical one, at least.
I think that's the glove state. It looks like an oven mitt.
And so I don't actually have your full name here, Siddharth. You've probably got like one of those Hare Krishna names, I'd imagine, being on this channel. Unless TJump has become the Hare Krishna this week. I'm not sure about that. If that's happened yet. But it takes usually up to about 2 years of chanting. So I'm assuming that you're the Hare Krishna this week. Did I have that right?
So kind of.
Okay. Perhaps you could, I think our viewers are pretty familiar with TJump right now. He's kind of famous on the internet as a epistemology and theism, atheism debater. But I think this is the first time, this is the first time that you and I have met, definitely. And so for many of our viewers, it'll be the first time seeing you as well. So could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sidarth Chhabra. I'm a computer scientist, work as a data science consultant in Michigan. I graduated from Michigan Ann Arbor a few years ago. And I learned Sanskrit for a long time, and that's why I got interested in the Puranas and the Bhagavad Purana and the philosophy of Bhagavad Purana. And then I also got introduced to Krishna consciousness and the philosophy. And I like the philosophy, and recently I did some research into it, published papers, and wrote a book. And that's what brings me here.
Okay, great. And what's the name of your book?
The book is called, so the book has two editions. One is an Indian edition and the other is an American edition. The American edition is called Heretic Science, and the Indian edition is called The Big Bang and the Sages.
Okay, Heretic Science. Cool. The Big Bang and the Sages, that's the Indian edition.
That's right.
And what's the difference between the two editions?
Just the name, because in India, people won't understand the idea that what is meant by heresy, because it's not, there's not so many Christians there. Whereas if you're in the Western part of the world, you understand what's heresy, what's heretic means, so people can make sense of it. So it's just name change, a different book cover to reach different audience.
Okay, I got it. Marketing, very very smart. Have you thought about that for your book, TJump? You have a book on epistemology, right? That you've written, and you're getting ready to publish it. Have you thought about, branding it differently in different markets?
No, I usually just pick the most vitriolic title possible. So like, why atheists are right. God is dead was taken. God is terrible was taken. God is evil was taken.
Okay.
So let's go with why atheists are right. That should work.
Okay, why atheists are right, and anyone who doesn't agree is an idiot. There you go. You got that for free. That's the subtitle.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's debate, to the topic. So we have Sidarth here, the author of Heretic Science. We have TJump, the author of Why Atheists Are Right. What happens when you put those two things together? So the topic of today's debate is Arjuna's cast it as, do the Puranas, no, does science,
are the Puranas vindicated by science?
Are the Puranas vindicated by science? Now, are you aligned with that as a topic for today's discussion, TJump?
What? I thought we were discussing Belle Delphine.
What is that?
I'll let Josh explain that one.
Check the Twitter trending hashtags. While you're not sharing your screen. That's definitely not safe for work. Okay, so Belle Delphine, heretical science, and atheism. Bit of a mashup. But we should probably stay away from that because I think our normal viewers, they can look at that afterwards. But for today, are the Puranas vindicated by science? Is that agreeable to you, TJump?
Sure.
Okay. So one thing I'd like to do just to kind of map out where this discussion goes is what is the win condition for each of you in this? Well, I mean, there's kind of two ways to do this, right? There's two-player co-op mode, and then there is like, PvP one-on-one. Two-player co-op mode is kind of exploring the space, and there's really no win condition to that. It's more about just like, discovering something. PvP one-on-one is like there is a winner. So how do you guys want to do this? Do you want to like define like a win condition for this discussion? Like
if you find me lots of hot blondes, I grant you win. That is the win condition.
Okay. We've got T-Jump's win condition then. So Sidarth, what would it look like for you to establish your position? That the Puranas are vindicated by science.
I guess the premise itself, if I can establish that. And more more than that, I'm also looking at the, having an interesting discussion, a deep discussion with Jump, because he's very well read in this topic of epistemology and he debates people all the time. So it's nice to knack somebody who is studying, philosophy for a long time to knack his brain and see what does he think of my proposition and argument. So
yeah, okay.
It's like two things. One, I want to have a debate, but at the same time, I would also like to hear from him his ideas and his concerns in my proposition.
Oh, I love it. It's such a Vedic / Hindu kind of idea. I'm like, two-player co-op or PvP one-on-one, and you're like both. Okay. Yeah. Why can't we have both? I love it. So, okay, what do you guys want to do? Rock, paper, scissors, who goes first? Or do you want to toss a coin? Or do you want to just call it?
Yeah, I don't know anything about his position, so I can just let him give his introduction and I can give my thoughts on it.
Yeah, okay, let's do it. We'll roll with that. Okay, so Sidarth, I understand that you have a PowerPoint presentation to go with your opening statement. Looking forward to this. So I'm going to rearrange the screen so that we can see it. To our viewers out there on the internet, remember to put your comments, questions, anything that you want into the chat, and we will come back to those later.
So one question, Josh.
Yeah.
Would I see the chat in the site? If anybody asks a question, like here, Frank says, "Hi guys," is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Frank's 92. Okay, so bringing in the screen share, and then I'm going to switch it to the cinematic mode, and I'm going to bounce.
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yeah. Thank God somebody muted Josh. You're good. You're good now.
Okay. So this is another debate. So first of all, I would like to give a brief introduction to the topic, because I'm not sure how many of the viewers are aware of the word Puranas or what they are. So the Puranas are a set of books. You can say that an encyclopedia. They cover a lot of topics, and there are many categorizations of them. There are many what do you call parts to it. However, there are 18 main Puranas, and those are the topic of my discussion and research. And they are accepted by scholars that, the scholars accept that they were written at least 2,500 years ago, if not earlier. They're written in Sanskrit, and as you can see in the slide here, there's some part of it, and they repeat themselves a number of times, and as I mentioned earlier, they cover a number of topics, of which the primary topic is lifestyle, that how we can live a lifestyle of harmony with nature, how we can have a lifestyle of which helps in self-realization. And it also brings it out by narrating different accounts of great personalities who have been in this history of the earth, our universe. So it discusses that, and through this accounts of those great personalities, it tries to share the values which one should aspire for and go for if one wants to really access the best potential of human life. So that is the basic, you can say, the basic idea of the Puranas, the basic proposition of the Puranas. So, being a data scientist, I studied the Puranas, and I was looking for that. We hear so many accounts, and uh, I'm hearing very important and very significant events being described in the Puranas. But has anybody gone ahead and checked whether they match with the modern science or not? Whether is there a relationship with modern science or not? Because growing in India, the idea which is taught to us is that, thanks to the Britishers, that all the Puranas are, or any of the Hindu texts are mythology, and that's coming because to India because as we all hear about the Renaissance. During the Renaissance, the Christian fanatics or other religious fanatics, they went ahead and they were trying to take over the European culture, and then there was a big upheaval, and then modern science took birth. And since then, religious people are sort of recognized as sort of like second class. But at the same time, there were still parts in Europe which were dominated by the idea that what the Bible teaches is the ultimate truth. And because of that, when the Britishers, they came to India, the British imperialists, they brought the same mindset to India, that it is the Bible which is the ultimate truth. And the Bible says that the earth is 6,000 years old. Oh, if the earth is 6,000 years old, how can the Puranas, which describe, million-year-old dates or billion-year-old dates for earth and solar system and universe, how can they be true? So then what was taught to us in schools, or is currently taught in school in India, is that whatever you learn or read in the Puranas is just a bunch of Brahmanas who have botched up some mythology for, convincing people, like all kinds of different reasons. There's a bunch of different ideas discussed in Indology. So I was wondering that, being a Hare Krishna practitioner, that, why is there so much information there and then so much detail there? This person has this and this person has that. And why so much detail is given if the idea was just to teach values? This is too much, storytelling, to get the point across. Anyway, so I just said, let me just take a look at it. Let me see what does this say about the significant events in the history of Earth, solar system, and universe. So I went ahead and picked up the events from the Puranas, which discuss dates for those events. The Puranas doesn't have so much detail about our cosmology or the Earth, but it has some details. And I just said, let me just focus on those. And I went to the original Sanskrit sources because I knew Sanskrit from birth, not birth, sorry, Sanskrit from India, from my training in India. So I said, let me just go back to Sanskrit and study from the Sanskrit Puranas, because English, you can lose out on the different things. And lo and behold, I found out that the Indologists were missing, major parts of the Puranas in their analysis, because they were not really interested in having a comparison or a discussion with the science, with the Puranas. And I found that Puranas not only contributes to our understanding of self-realization and lifestyle, but it also has some discussion on topics which are of importance to modern science. So I started with, I was looking at the age of the sun. So the Puranas discuss that Brahma, his lifestyle and his lifetime, and according to the Puranas, Brahma lives for a long period of time, and at the beginning of his day, he creates the solar system. So I checked, what does the Puranas say? The Puranas state, as you can see in this in the box in the lowermost corner, I'm not sure if you can see that, it says 4.563. So that is the date given by Brahma for the solar system. 4.5. That is the date given by the Puranas for the solar system. How old is our solar system? 4.563 billion years old. And since I'm well versed in modern science, I'm always reading Scientific American or other places of information. I knew that the modern scientific date was pretty close, and I found out that modern scientific date, actually 2018 paper, 4.567. So and there's more discussion in the Puranas about the future of the sun also, and that also matches with the science qualitatively. Like the Puranas state that the sun will become a red giant, and it gives time. It says it will become red giant and it will be destroyed in 5.3 billion years. What does the scientist say? Scientist says 5 to 8 billion years. They're not really sure because they're not sure what is the exact metallicity of the sun. Because in order to date the future of the sun, one has to understand what is sun made of. And till 1938, we didn't even know until Hans Bethe came around. That how does sun produce energy? So it's not a strange thing that still we don't know much about sun. We're still working on it. Astrophysicists are working on it, and all kudos to them for their hard work. It's not an easy problem. It's a very tough problem. And they say this is that in 5 to 8 billion years, sun will die. There will be a death of the sun. So, and that was one of the important events which I found in the Puranas. And if you notice the difference, the Puranic date differs from the scientific date by 0.1%. And if you see the history here, how the scientific estimates have over the year sort of like converged upon the Puranic estimates. So that is one data point, and I will discuss more data points as we go forward. But the idea is same, that how the modern science has made a claim or have discovered this important information about the sun, and using number of numerous radiometric dating techniques. It's not just one dating technique. They use number of dating techniques, because somebody may question, how do we know that this is the exact number for age of the solar system? Maybe scientists are wrong about it this time, and maybe it is something different. So but we can see here that when scientists say something about, say, age of the sun, they're really working very hard. So they do they are actually pretty sure about this date for the sun, because they have number of dating techniques. Like they use different radioactive materials to find out dates, and they have found they are matching with each other. They're helping. They agree with each other. So that's why they're pretty sure about it. And the Puranas. So scientific method is based on empiricism, and empiricism can sometimes be wrong, because it is, you have a basis, and you have induction, and there can be a mistake at the end. So Puranas, for the first time, are providing an independent way of verifying modern scientific claims. And somebody may say, oh, well, if Puranas say that how old is the sun, how does sun create energy? And what are the equations? Can you show us the equations? The Puranas don't discuss that, because, again, as I said earlier, that's not the main point. That's not the main message of the Puranas. The core principle, or the core of the Puranas is self-realization. It's practices and lifestyle for getting the most out of human life. There are here and there details about different important events in cosmology and in astrophysics, but there's not so much more detail. So in that sense, science is valuable, because if people want to understand laws of science, all glories to astrophysics. They can study and they can find out. However, we should appreciate that the Puranas are providing an independent way of verifying scientific claims. And this becomes much more important when we go to the second data point, which is age of the universe, or origin of the universe. Now, this has been a big conundrum for the scientists, because even now also scientists are fighting, cosmologists are fighting that about the Big Bang, because there are a bunch of astrophysicists which say that this date of the Big Bang, which is now stated to be 13.801, is wrong. They say it should be something else, because there is a different, I forgot what's called Hubble's constant, and they're fighting. They're still having papers saying different opinions about Hubble's constant. And lo and behold, here the Puranas say that the universe is 13.819 billion years old. The difference is 0.1%. And here again, science is catching up with the Puranas, and Puranas are providing an independent way of verifying modern scientific claims. Now, if you were to go to Google or search for age of the universe from the Puranas or the Vedas, you will find a slightly different number, because, as I said earlier, that thanks to British rule over India, practically nobody has paid attention to the Puranas since then. However, I went ahead and studied the sections of Puranas, and recently I published also a peer-reviewed journal paper, and the paper link is, I'm sure they can put it out there. Anybody can read it. And I show how, from original Sanskrit sources, that the previous Indologists has missed some portions of the Puranas in their study of this topic. And when you bring that in, then you can see this one amazing correlation or amazing agreement between modern science and the Puranas. So that's data number 2, age of the universe. And note here, this date for the universe is not based on radioactive dating, because I know some people, young Earth creationists, and other, they distrust radioactive dating. They think, that people are cheating, people are all having a conspiracy theory to give us a wrong date for the Earth. But for the universe, actually, it's not based on any of the dating from the stones, because there's no stone to date. Actually, date for the universe, if you know the brief history, how it came about, how we found out how old is the universe, is an amazing story. If you have, I'll tell you quickly in 30 seconds, that there were this group of scientists. They were studying, they were doing some experiments, and they were looking for this microwaves at T equal to 3 Kelvin. And they were noticing there was this background noise. And they thought maybe there was some bird droppings on the antenna. And they checked, antenna was pretty clear. There was not any bird droppings. And they looked carefully, and they found out that actually it's because of microwave background radiation. So that was predicted by another theory. So they were really surprised, and later they got Nobel Prize for finding microwave background radiation, or cosmic microwave background radiation. And by using cosmic microwave background radiation, one can date how old is the universe. And we could only do it thanks to satellites, which have gone outside, gone into space, and they have dated the universe. And the most latest estimate based on Planck satellite is 13.801, and the Puranic estimate is 13.819. So this is again 0.1% difference between the Puranic date and the scientific date. And I'll share another data point. In my book, there are a number of data points, but here in this presentation, in this talk, I'm sticking to 3, which are very clear and easy to understand. The third one is mass extinction. I'm sure many of you have heard of mass extinction. It's a topic which is in back of everybody because, the climate change and the weather change. And some people are saying currently maybe we're going through another mass extinction. So in the history of the Earth, there has been 5 or 6 major mass extinctions. And the biggest one was the end Permian mass extinction, in which 90% of the species in water or in aquatic species were lost, and 7 out of 10 land species were lost or went extinct. So the Puranas also talk about different mass extinctions, or in other words, pralaya. And the biggest pralaya, or the most severe mass extinction described in the Puranas, is the Matsya Avatar pralaya, which happened 251.2 million years ago. And the difference is 0.3%. So given these dates in the Puranas, not just these three, actually in my book, I talked about a dozen of such dates and such events, and such in terms of very strong correlations, not something, speculate and qualitative, but very strong correlations in my book. And it makes one think, that maybe we should take what is given in the Puranas much more seriously. Maybe we should consider what is given in the Puranas as much more than mythology. And we should also think, there are a number of implications, and we can discuss more. But this is first, I want to give these data points and check let's see what does Jump think about it, and what does other people think about it.
Okay, then. So could you tell me about the extinction event? When was that?
251.2.
In like the Puranic,
in the Puranas.
In the Puranic chronology, like when was it? Was that like Tetra Yuga, Satra Yuga?
Oh, so that's a good question. I'm glad you read about it, and we can go over the details for it. So the Puranic chronology is not stated in number of years, but stated in yugas, as Jump pointed out. So there are 4 yugas: Kali Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Satya Yuga. A combination of these 4 makes a Chatur Yuga. A combination of these, Chatur Yugas, 71 of Chatur Yugas make a Manvantara. And 14 Manvantras make a Kalpa. So currently, we are in the 7th Manvantara of the first Kalpa of Brahma's day. And the Matsya Avatar Pralaya happened at the end of the 6th Manvantara. So it happened, currently we are in the 28th Chatur Yuga of the current Manvantara. I can show you a diagram to explain, to help you understand this better, because there are too many numbers and too many foreign words there. You may not understand.
So when did the extinction happen? Which yuga did the extinction happen?
The extinction happened in the 6th Manvantara, in the 71st Chaturyuga, in the Satya Yuga.
So in the Tetra Yuga.
No, in the Satya Yuga.
Okay, Satya. Yeah, gotcha. And what else was going on during that time period?
What else was going on?
Like the stories, because there's a lot of stories about what's going on during those time periods. What were the stories?
Well, there are many stories, but I can narrate you the story from the Puranas, because here I'm sticking to the Puranas. So I'm sticking to the Puranas. The Puranas explain that this is the account around it. The account is that King Satyavrata was ruling, and he was a very pious king, and he somehow or other sensed that there is a big calamity which is coming. So he starts engaging himself in austerity and meditation, because that's a key principle which comes again and again in the Puranas, that whenever there is a calamity or there's one senses some difficulty, one takes a step back and spends a lot of time in meditation, a lot of time in austerity. And he started doing meditation, and in his meditation he was praying that for some direction how to go forward. And then he was visited by Matsya Avatar, or incarnation of Vishnu in the form of half fish and half man. And Vishnu came and he spoke to him about the upcoming calamity called the Matsya Avatar Pralaya. So, I mean, King Satyavrata was ruling, and once he found about this, then
he was ruling. What was he ruling?
He was ruling. Well, he was ruling a kingdom. He has
a kingdom of people.
Yeah, people, population, everything.
How many millions of years ago was this?
251.3.
How old are humanity?
Oh, so okay. So that's why I was saying. That's why I shared with you my book first, so that you can, I know what you're pointing to. So let me give you some more clarity to it. I know what your doubt is.
Well, so you said this was how many millions of years ago again?
251.2.
250 million years ago. There was a guy who had a kingdom of people where human beings haven't existed for the maximum of 200,000 years. So that is how many thousands? A few thousand times older than the first human. And this guy had a kingdom, people in it. So I mean, the number is it's a very nice number that can correlate to one of the extinctions.
Yeah.
But all of the other things it's describing there are completely wrong.
That's a really good point. Thank you bringing that up, Jump. I mean, I appreciate that you caught that point, and that's why you are so smart, that you are able to, see the weaknesses in my presentation, or the gaps in my presentation, which I didn't discuss.
Oh, so, and I want to apologize to interrupt. There's one more thing I wanted to say. When you're giving this presentation, it would be good for you to actually bring up the quotes from the Puranas and then read them where they say this was at this time, and then you can explain the numbers in some way, so there's some corroboration. Because you just essentially, if people aren't familiar with the text, all you did was just said the Puranas say this and this is what is the case, but you haven't actually shown the Puranas do actually say that. So it would be good for you to actually present in future debates.
Well, sure, I can do that. I'm sure I can do that. I was not sure that how much of the detail I should present, because that's why I shared the paper, and I suggested that we can put the paper in a link so that people who want to see the references and the shlokas and the verses, because I quote exact verses there, and they're pretty easy to understand Sanskrit. You can use any of the Sanskrit translation programs online to translate them. They're very straightforward. There's nothing very complicated Sanskrit there.
This wasn't a criticism for me. This is just advice for a future presentation. You should add this in. But yeah, I wanted to focus more on the other point about there's a kingdom with people 200.
That's right. So Jump made it. Should I call you Mr. Jump, or should I call you Tom? What's the best way to?
I usually just go by TJump. TJump is fine.
TJump. Okay, it's a little tough because there are two consonants next to each other. TJump. Okay, so TJump mentioned that how do we explain that there is this talk of this people. This is this talk of kingdom. There's this population. What is going on? It's supposed to be, humanity just came on Earth, like, maybe a couple million years ago, but you're talking about 251 million years ago.
The humanity has only been around for 200,000 years at the most.
Sure. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, I'm just giving you the extra. Okay, like suppose some people may say that there's precursors to human beings as close to primates. Maybe somebody may go to 2 million years at the most. Go a little more back just to give extra. But anyway, still 251 is crazy. If anybody claims that there was a kingdom on Earth 251 million years ago, that's like really, I must be like drinking some kind of strange stuff and coming on the YouTube. So that's the point you made there. But I want to give an explanation to that topic. That's very important. You brought that point out. So we have to understand that the Puranas, when they explain something, there are two things we have to understand. And I appreciate that TJump made the point clear that it's interesting that the Puranas have these dates, and that's very interesting that how they have such close dates. That's one thing to appreciate. First of all, we want to go into the accounts also and try to put our head around it. That how do we understand and how do we make sense of it. But one thing we have to appreciate separately from the accounts is that these dates and these events. So the Puranas are describing, in the case of this mass extinction, they're describing a severe calamity, a severe catastrophic calamity. And similarly, the modern science is also explaining that there was a very severe catastrophic calamity, something which not has been seen before. So we have to accept that there is some similarity there. The Puranas are giving a date, there is a date. And we have a date for the mass extinction. Similarly, we have for the age of the sun, and then we have age of the universe. But in all these three cases, we're talking of persons. We're talking of kingdom. We're talking about personalities. We're talking about, which doesn't make sense. So we have to understand, first of all, that the Puranas are not describing the world which we can see. They are describing the higher dimensional world around which is all around us. So now I have to step back and give a little more explanation here. So since 19th century or since the 1900s, since Einstein came with a theory of general relativity and then special theory of relativity, modern physics has been dominated by paradigms of higher dimensional physics. No matter where you look, they are always proposing sometimes string theory, D theory, membrane. They're always proposing that it is the higher dimensional physics which holds key to finding a grand unified theory or an understanding of laws of physics, which are currently very difficult to reconcile with each other. So modern physics, accepts that we don't have a way to really, experiment or go into the higher dimensions, but a theory which is based on higher dimension, they feel would solve the current problems in modern physics, and that is the current understanding. So the Puranas.
Wait, just to clarify, what do you mean by higher dimensions here?
Higher dimensions means like you have 6 dimensions, 11 dimension. Like have you heard of string theory? Like it has.
Yes, I'm pretty familiar with string theory and Ed Witten and M theory and all the different versions of that. But dimensions in those things don't mean a different world that has a different 3 dimensions to it. All those dimensions exist in the exact same location. So like space is 3-dimensional plus time is 4-dimensional, but they all exist in the exact same location.
Yeah.
And if you add in string theory, the same thing is the case. The 11 dimensions of string theory all exist in the exact same location. There's not like a second dimension where other people exist.
No. Then you didn't understand what's higher dimensions. I can explain to you an example. So have you ever, if you suppose, this is a very common example. People always talk about it. There was this famous book about it too. Like suppose you have these people called people who live in a flat land. Now
Carl
I'm
Sagan,
sure you have,
yes.
Yes. So in Flatland, actually there was another guy who wrote the book called Flatlanders, and Carl Sagan took it from it. So if you have suppose some people who are living on a plane and they can only see the 2 dimensions. So then suppose a sphere passes through that plane. Then when the sphere passes through that plane, the people on the Flatlanders, they will only see oval, and they will see a circle. They will see a circle which will changing in its size, and they will come up with some very convoluted theory to explain it. It won't really make sense. But so suppose somebody has an understanding of the 3 dimensions, he or she will be able to see that actually there is a sphere which is passing through this plane. So now you notice that when the once you bring in 3 dimensions, you can have in the same 3-dimensional plane, on the 3-dimensional volume, many parallel or many not so parallel 2-dimensional planes. So a higher dimensional object can have many lower dimensional objects inside them which are parallel to each other, in a sense that the events which are happening on a 3-dimensional sphere can have an interaction with the events on the 2-dimensional plane which is passing through it, but they won't be exact, but there can be a connection between them.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. In string theory, can objects exist in the different dimensions?
Yeah, there can be objects in another X dimension world which are parallel to the world in which we live. This is the basics of higher dimensions.
No, that's not how dimensions work in string theory. So dimensions in string theory work like time. Like if you have something in space and time, then the object exists in all of the dimensions. So that's not quite how dimensions work in string theory. It's not like a sci-fi dimension where you can.
Well, I'm not talking about sci-fi. I'm just talking basics of mathematics. In mathematics,
those dimensions do not work the way you're describing them. That's not how dimensions work in string theory. But that's kind of a separate point. But
yeah, I'm just telling you from my understanding of mathematics and my understanding of Riemannian higher dimensional, that forms the basis of Einstein's work, that in a higher dimensional object, you can have many parallel lower dimensional objects. So it is very much possible that there is a higher dimensional world around us of which we are inhabiting a 3-dimensional world in which we are observing some events which have a correspondence with the events which are described in the Puranas, which supposedly describe events from higher dimensional world. Now, the reason I say this, that the Puranas are describing a higher dimensional world, I can give you arguments for that. But my first point is that the reason why we don't see that kingdom, why we don't see king and all those population here on our earth 251 million years ago, because the Puranas are describing a world which is higher dimensional, of which we don't have a way to approach it, a way to evaluate. So it's unfalsifiable. But what is falsifiable is the dates.
Right. So there's 2 points there. One is, again, that's not how dimensions work in physics. In physics, the dimensions apply everywhere. There's not like separate beings in different dimensions. That's an equivocation between 2 different definitions of dimensions. In physics, it means something very specific, which is not the way you're using it in like the flatland. The flatland dimensions don't apply in the way the physics uses it.
Okay, how about this? Now, in this, we are not moving forward. Maybe next time we can invite like a physicist to come in between and help us resolve it, because my understanding of physics and high dimensional physics is, I would disagree with you on that point, and I don't think we're going to move forward on that. So go ahead with the second point.
Did I cut out, or did you guys cut out?
I'm not sure. I think you were cut out, but so okay. I was saying that we're not moving forward that point. So let's look at that point. Let's move to the second point. Yeah.
So the second point is that you said that the descriptions of what's going on in the Puranas are of the higher dimensional realm, except for the dates, which are not of the higher dimensional realm. They're of this realm. For some reason, you're making the distinction between some of the facts happen to be of the higher dimensional realm and some of the facts happen to be of this realm.
Yeah,
I think that's...
Yeah, that you can say that's what do you call that thing? Cherry picking.
Yes.
What do you call that? Cherry picking.
Yes.
So I'm glad I chose the right word today, because I'm learning to speak good English, but it's coming from India. I don't speak. I'm not trying to learn good words. So yeah,
you're about better than about 70% of Americans. So congratulations.
I guess that's because I didn't learn the text or SMS lingo, so saved from all the trash. Anyway, so that's a good point that I may be accused of cherry picking, but here's my point. My point is that not only the dates, I'm saying practically all the descriptions from the Puranas are discussing a higher dimensional world. The point I'm positing here is that there is a connection between the high dimensional world and the world in which we live, and that's how the physics works. That things which are happening on the higher dimensional can have an impact on things of lower dimension. What I'm saying is that there is a strong correlation. There's a strong agreement between the modern scientific dates which are given in the Puranas. So the modern scientific dates and the dates which are given in the Puranas, and that should make us think or consider the Puranas in a very serious manner and try to understand that how can we understand and how can we use that for improving our knowledge of this world and going forward.
Oh yeah, so I totally grant that the dates in the Hindu Purana texts are probably the most accurate predictions of any religious text ever. I grant that. So then we would have to look at the rest of the things it describes and see, well, does it actually accurately describe the other things that occur? So you said that the extinction happened in, what was the 6th or the 7th?
6th Manvantara and the 71st Shatrayuga and the Satyuga of that.
Okay, what was happening in the third?
Third what?
Because you said it was the 6th. The extinction happened in the 6th Satrayuga. What was happening in the third?
So there's a yugas and there's manvantaras. These are two different time units. A manvantara is a combination of 71 Chaturyugas.
Yep.
And the Chaturyuga is a combination of 4 different yugas. Yep. Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga.
Right. So it's like a year. You got summer, winter, spring, fall, summer, winter, spring, fall.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so the Satrayuga, you're saying there's the extinction happened on the 6th summer, the 6th Satrayuga. Yep. So what happened on the 3rd Satrayuga? What was going on in the 3rd Satrayuga?
No, I didn't get it. So the extinction happened in the 6th Manvantara in the Satyuga. Yes. Satyuga is the first one. Then after that, there is Treta Yuga. After that, there is Dwapar Yuga. After that, there is Kali Yuga. And then there is a Sandhya. And then there's the start of the 7th Manvantara. So at the end of every Manvantara, what happens is that the demigods are switched.
Okay.
The demigods are the universal administrators who manage events on cosmic level. So they are switched onto the Puranas. So what is mentioned in the Puranas, specifically regarding to this event, is that after that Satyuga, there was the mass extinction, the Pralaya. And from that point onwards, there was no life in the Puranic Bhumandala until the beginning of the 7th Manvantara. So now I want to give you more details. Just 1 second, Jump. Sorry, I know you want to make a point, but quickly I want to make another point there. So according to modern scientists, it took about 9 to 11 million years for the species on the Earth to recover from this mass extinction because it's very severe. And that also very well correlates to the beginning of the 7th Manvantara.
Okay, right, so you said there was no life after the extinction event in the Parishnas, right?
After what? After the Pralaya? After
the extinction, there was no life. It killed all life, right?
Not all. There was a few people, like few people were saved or were protected by Vishnu in the form of Matsya Avatar, and then they begin the next cycle of life in the Satyuga.
Yep. Okay, but did he mention the dinosaurs, the bacteria, the billions of? Because most life didn't go extinct at that time. Only the complex life did. Bacteria still rule the planet, so most life didn't go extinct.
So
humans.
I never said most life extinct. I said it was the most severe extinction. I'm not saying everything was destroyed. I'm just saying it was the most severe extinction. The Puranas don't discuss the detail about, as I said earlier, that if you're looking for the details of astrophysics and cosmology, like the equations, or you're looking for details on how bacteria have intracellular organs, how do they produce energy, that's not there. That's not the main purpose of Puranas. They're giving dates, they're giving significant events, and that's it. That's what we have. Now, if you're looking for those details, your better luck is to go to a paleontologist and study from him. They can tell you more details about what's there.
Well, right. That's the point, is that if this is a reliable source that indicates that the Hare Krishna is true, then we should be able to use it to learn about the past. And so if 99% of what it says about the past is wrong and it got like 1% right, that's evidence that it isn't correct. That's evidence that it guessed and got some things right. So
Okay.
if I can look at all of
no. Let's say break it down with things which you just said. You said many things which I didn't say. You're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that let's look at this data and saying the Hare Krishna is true. I never claimed that. You said let's look at this data and call the Hare Krishnas are true. I never claimed it. I'm not saying that statement. So let's not take that statement as my argument, as my proposition. The only thing I said was this: two things. One, let's look at this data. And second, after looking at this data, we should think very deeply. What we should think, that modern science, it took last 200 years to arrive at these dates for these events. The Puranas don't have so much information to discuss on the dates or the scientific information. The Puranas, I'm proposing the Puranas are presenting an history of the world which is higher dimensional. Modern physicists don't disagree with me that there could be a higher dimensional world around us for which we can't experiment, we can't really evaluate that world. And modern physics is interested in questions about the history of the life and the universe, and those dates are matching very precisely. The difference is not some it's not a rough figure. It's not, you just can't grant that okay, they have the best figure amongst all the religions. No, I'm not even saying that. We're saying we have the best values which have been achieved right now in 2018, after working for 120 years, after working for 150 years, back-breaking labor, after developing super sophisticated satellites. Do you understand how difficult it is to date, how to find the date for the mass extinction? MIT teams working day and night, then they find out that the mass extinction 251.9, and that's not the end. In the 1980s, up to the 1980s, scientists didn't even accept the mass extinctions were true. So it's a very, very hard problem for science to find out date for mass extinction or the age of the sun or age of the universe. So we do have
right. So it sounds like what you're saying is that there are these really, really hard things to find out about the world, and the Puranas already knew them. Therefore, the Puranas are true, right?
No, I'm not even saying that. You understand why you keep putting words in my mouth. What I'm saying is that these dates show that the Puranas have an access to truth which is equivalent to what modern science is achieving right now.
That's what I just said. That's what I just said. So the Puranas have access to truth. They're true. They tell us things about the universe. That's what true means.
So there's a difference to saying that whatever the Puranas say is true versus the Puranas have access to truth, because since those texts have been preserved for last 2,000 years and they've been written down by many people who there was not a printing press at that time. They didn't have libraries 2,000 years ago that they could have multiple copies of text lying around everywhere. So there are many different variations. So there are some portions of Puranas.
Right. I'm not saying every word is without error.
Yes.
That's not the claim I'm making. I'm saying you're saying that some of the facts in the Puranas are true.
Yes,
that's the argument you're making. So, for example,
I'm making an argument that all the dates given in the Puranas are true. If I want to be careful about it, I would say all the dates given in the Puranas are true. That's my claim.
Okay, so again, I would then, to test this, what I would do is say, give me what was going on in the third Manvantara. What was going on?
Third Manvantara or the sixth Manvantara where the Pralay happened?
I'm asking about before the extinction. So three Manvartas before the extinction, what was going on?
Okay, that's very good question. So as I said earlier, the Puranas don't have so many details about events happening in every Chaturyuga or every Manvantara. They only discuss very significant events in the history of the solar system, Earth, and universe. And there are about, maybe I would say, 25 such dates in the Puranas in total. And they're all discussed in my book, Heretic Science. So currently, in my study of the Puranas, I haven't found any event which is mentioned for the third Manvantara, which I can find a date in the Puranas. There isn't discussed any event there in the third Manvantara. What is discussed, now I'll tell you the major ones. What is discussed is that there was Samudra Manthan, which is an event happened again in in the 6th Manvantara before the mass extinction, and that event correlates to it talks about the first species which got poisonous capacity. So the according to modern science, the first species which got poisonous capacity or the poison glands was 521 million years ago. That is the current understanding. And according to Puranas, the date for that is 520 million years ago. So that is one event which is before the mass extinction.
So is the third mantra a date? That's a date, right? Because it says these are all dates. Like it gives the years that these happened.
So you mean the beginning of the third Manvantara or the end of third Manvantara or what? Because Manvantara is a big time unit. It's a 617.334 million year old, million year long time period.
Right. So each one of these is a time period. Each one of these is a date, the beginning and the end. Right. So it's because it's from this time period to this time period. They all have a date, which means every single one of the events described in every single one of those things has to be right for your claim to be correct.
Right. But there is no event discussed for third Manvantara in the Puranas.
Okay. Just pick any of the ones earlier than the 6th. What was going on?
So Jump, you're asking such a good questions. I really appreciate. And Larry Jarby says that I should let you finish. So if you want to say something more, you can say before, so I can help.
Yeah, that's fine. Just tell me what was going on before the 6th, before the extinctions. Just describe the events.
Okay.
That the Puranas say happened.
It's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question. So what happened according to Puranas, that in the Manvantara is an interesting account described in the Puranas. Now, for these, there are only rough dates available because they don't give the exact Chaturyuga there. But what is the event is described, and you will love the event when you hear it. So the event described that Brahma is supposed to begin the life in the beginning of his day, which is 3.947 billion years ago. That's when he begins the life, so-called life on Earth, or in the whole Bhumandala, the higher dimensional Earth. And this is also pretty close to the current understanding of origin of life on Earth, which is a very difficult topic to understand. What do you call really life? Like, when does really life begin? Is the virus the life? Is like the like, where do you say the life begins? It's a very tough question to understand. But anyways, scientists accept that the first origin of life is somewhere between 3.8 to 4.3 billion years ago. It's a tough question. It's not really solved yet. People are still fighting and discussing. According to the Puranas, life originates on Earth or on the higher dimensional Bhumandala 3.947 billion years ago. However, the person who is in charge of the creating life, a progeny, his name is Daksha, and he's one of the demigods, and he got cursed. He lives on a higher planet, not on Earth. He got cursed right in the first Manvantara, and he didn't get a chance. Then he had to do austerity for next many million years. So he went into like some kind of austerity, some kind of penance, and he didn't come back until 600 million years ago, or 600 actually to be exact. Actually, it was, I don't remember the exact date, something around 600 million years ago. That's when he comes back. Not 600, sorry, 800 million years ago. That's when he comes back. And only 540 million years ago, he was able to create the situation favorable to create life on higher dimensional Bhumandala. It's called as Samudra Manthan. So since he was in charge of creating or propagating, not promoting life and species on higher dimensional Earth, because he was not able to perform his duty, the growth of life was kind of like stampeded, or was stagnated. It didn't move much forward according to the Puranas. And that is why the Puranas don't have much events from first, second, third, fourth, or fifth Manvantara. Only from the 6th Manvantara is when it starts describing events on the higher dimensional Earth. So I want to say one more thing just before, because you had asked previously a question. I want to give a Sanskrit term for it. So the Puranas describe event on Bhumandala. Bhumandala is a higher dimensional corresponding object to our Earth. So our Earth is a 3-dimensional, whereas Bhumandala is something which surrounds the Earth, which is higher dimensional. And that is what is described in the Puranas. The events are described on that higher dimensional Bhumandala. Now it is very complex and very, very, very difficult topic to understand. So I'm happy to answer more questions as if you have.
Sure. So the Satya Yugas are the era of truth when humanity is governed by the gods and every manifestation or work is close to the purest ideal, right? Something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
And Satya Yuga is how many? That's like 1 point something million years. Is that right?
No. So the Satya Yuga is 3.456 million years old. 3.545. So 3.456 million
Years ago, right?
No, years ago. 3.456 million solar years.
Okay. So what I'm reading here, the Satya Yuga lasts 1.728 million years.
That's because that is on Bhumandala. So let me step back. So Satya Yuga is described again in terms of the years of Bhumandala. Bhumandala is a higher dimensional space which is all around us. When we talk of Earth years, we have to use a factor of 2. So whatever years you are seeing there, they have to be multiplied by a factor of 2. This is something which is missed by Indologists, and I argue for that in my paper.
Well, they say the divine years separately. So this specifically says Earth years and then divine years.
Yeah, that's something people usually confuse. That's where the whole problem comes, as you mentioned earlier. That why is there no kingdom or king to be seen when it is describing Earth in the Puranas? Because Puranas are not describing Earth; they're describing Bhumandala. So people many times mistake the Bhumandala described in the Puranas as Earth, whereas Bhumandala is a higher dimensional realm which is surrounding the 3-dimensional Earth which we live on. So the Earth years which are mentioned in that article which you're reading right now, they correspond to Bhumandala, and any
they say those. That's the very next thing. They say that the Bhumandala, the divine years, are a different time scale. So they list both of them side by side. They say this is the human years.
Divine years are on so okay. So Puranic cosmology, I want to give you a little understanding that it has 14 levels, 14 planetary systems, 14 lokas. We are in the Bhumandala. Then there is above that there is Swarga Loka, and that's what it describes, called heavenly divine years from Swarga Loka. And above that there is Mahar, Jana, Tapa, and goes up to Brahma, Satya Loka. And then below that there is 7 other different lokas. So the divine years which are mentioned, they are for Swarga Loka. We are talking about Bhumandala. These are different.
So when it says human years, that's not talking about one Earth year?
No, they are all talking about Bhumandala, which is the higher dimensional Earth which surrounds us. That is why there has to be a factor of 2. So 1.728 becomes 3.456 on our Earth.
That's very strange, since all of the academic papers I find say the opposite.
That's right, and I agree with you. I completely agree with you, because I gave you the reason. Since Britishers came to India, Indology has been like thrown away. It's just mythology. Why care about these numbers? Practically, in last 150 years, there has not been more than 3 or 4 Indologists who have published papers and studied this topic from Western perspective. Most of them have just been regurgitating or repeating the stuff which other people have done. People don't even care to read the Sanskrit. They just quote the previous guy. So there's a factor of 2 which needs to be applied, which has been ignored, and I discussed that reason, that in detail. But again, if you remove the factor of 2, suppose you don't want the factor of 2, so then there will be instead of a stunning agreement, there will be a stunning correlation, because there will be all the dates which I mentioned, they will be off by a factor of 2. You understand? Like, instead of, suppose you go out and you give somebody like $10, somebody you give $15, somebody you give $100, and I can say, while you're talking to me, hey, you give $5 to him, you give $7.5 to him, and you give $50 to him. Now, me being able to say all those dates, they're all off by a factor of 2. It doesn't make much difference. It becomes a correlation instead of an agreement. So if you don't want to take the factor of 2, suppose you want to go with the view of the Indologist, then those who are current there, don't want to accept my Sanskrit understanding, my paper currently, I understand, then there will be all the dates which I mentioned, they'll be off by a factor of 2.
Well, when I look at the academic journals, they get the dates about right. Like the age of the Earth is 4.5 billion years. So they're not off by a factor of 2. Like
No.
I've
Okay, show me any paper who got 4.5 billion. They have to give academic source for it. They have to give Sanskrit words. They have to give a translation, and they have to discuss it.
yeah, I mean, I've researched this previously, like the numbers that I got before, because I never read your interpretation before you sent me your paper. But you can see me
4.5
referencing you can see me referencing all of the Hindu research saying, yeah, these are really impressive predictions.
That's right.
Because I've read about the Hindu predictions from other scholars who used the dates I just read to come to the conclusion that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Sure, you can look up any academic journal and you won't find 4.5 there. If you find it, I'm happy to be corrected.
Okay, because I literally did.
You won't find. You will find in what you call in spaces of common discussion. Because what if I tell you how people confuse it? So what happens is that the Brahma's complete day, a kalpa, is equal to, if you don't apply the factor of 2, is equal to 4.32 billion years. So people confuse that to be the age of the Earth, 4.32. Are you with me, Jump?
Yep.
So people just state that, but they don't understand that we are already halfway to Brahma's day. So you can't say that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old based on that. Do you understand my point? So the Brahma's whole day.
I don't understand your point. So I just found an academic journal that says this. So Survey of Hinduism, Klaus K. Klostermeier, 2007, page 495 to 496.
Yeah. What does it say?
In Hindu cosmology, the age of the Earth is 4.32 billion years. One day of Brahma, that is 1,000 times the sum of 4 yugas in years.
So that does he give a reference to that? Where does it state that? In the which Purana, which book?
I'd have to actually, like, this gives a source for the document, the peer-reviewed paper. So I would assume so. I would assume that they did.
It's not there. So I'm explaining you. I'm explaining how it works. I'm giving you the breakdown how it works. So we are halfway through the day of Brahma. Brahma's whole day is equal to 1,000 Chaturyugas, and it is equal to 4.32 billion years. Since we're halfway to it, according to that cosmology, that model will be 2.16 billion years into it. So it is wrong because they're not giving the exact Sanskrit words to back it up. They have to discuss, like, what they're doing is that Brahma is 1 day is equal to this, but they forget we are already halfway to the day. So you can't say that we are, Earth is that much old. So that is just, not so good academic work. Poor academic work.
Yes, they do list the Bhagavata Purana. And
so
the Datara, I don't know how to pronounce these words.
Do they give the verse number? And we can look at the verse and we studied. I'm explaining to you. I mean, that's how you can. I'm explaining to you in the best I can.
Yes, they list lots of verses. Verse 23, XI 9, 10.
Yeah. So let's look at the verse, because I can tell you, if you look at this verse, those verses explain, and they're very simple to understand verses. We can look at those verses up. I can give you a link of the website called vedabase.com.
I'm not an expert in Sanskrit, so I can't check your work here.
It is English. It is English, and the link
No. So I cannot check if what you're saying is true. You're telling me your interpretation, and that's fine.
No, I'm not.
But I'm reading the alternative interpretations. They're getting the correct numbers. They are listing verses, so they're saying they got it right. They are listing Sanskrit just like you are, and the consensus, the majority of papers seem to show these dates. You seem to show a different set of dates. So if you can convince the consensus of experts that you're right, that's great evidence. I will definitely accept that you were right. If you can convince
that's what I did. I published a peer-reviewed paper to establish that. They won't accept my paper if it was not, if the scholars won't think that my translations are correct, my proposition is correct. That's the first thing.
Accepting a paper is not the same as convincing the consensus. There's lots of very silly papers that are published, like Idealism or Inspiring Philosophy publishes or cherry picks all kinds of silly papers for his
right.
stuff.
That's right.
So if you can change the consensus of the experts in the field to adopt your chronology, then yes, I think that's great evidence.
That's right.
But when I look at all of the resources, they show a counter chronology, a different one. So I don't.
In my paper, I give tons of other evidence. You should go to if you go there was.
Well, I'm not qualified to assess the evidence.
I'm giving a point there. 1 second. that H.H. Wilson, who's one of the oldest person, the earliest translations of the Puranas he's a Britisher, he agrees with me in that point that the age of the universe, according to that cosmology, age of the earth is 2.3 something billion years. And we are halfway to Brahma's day. Now, if you go to any serious Puranic scholar, I can give you a list of 20 big Puranic scholars in any big universities, and you write them this question, and they will agree with my proposition that we are halfway to Brahma's day, and the Brahma's day equal to this. Now, you're making a good point that maybe I should try to convince the consensus and get all the people on my side, and that's what I want to do. That's my job, and I'm working towards it, and I need your blessings and your support. And whomever this guy whom you found, if you know any Puranic scholars, if you know any Sanskrit scholars, you can send them my way. I'm happy to convince them and happy to have a discussion with them. And I agree with you that just having one paper is not enough. I have to do more work. I have to change the opinion of everybody in the field and have them agree with me. And it's a long process. It's not a one-day process. I publish my paper, I publish a book, and I'm going to go forward in this direction. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's totally fair. But so from my perspective, the way I'm looking at it is I say, you are saying that all the numbers are off by 2, and because they don't use the correct chronology. And then I look at the chronology they're using, they're not off by 2. And so
well, that's the thing. That 4.5, the number you're quoting is somebody who's not even a Puranic scholar. They're just taking what you call public presentations, popular presentation. They're not.
No, I went to the source, and they do actually quote the Puranas and the Sanskrit. So I found those in the book.
Bhagavad Purana, 3rd canto, in chapter 11, talks about it a number of times. You will find a number of verses which support that we are halfway through Brahma's day.
Okay, I mean that's your interpretation. I grant that that's your interpretation.
It's a verse. Sanskrit will be exact translation. You can find translation for that verse from 20 different places. If you find a different translation, I'm ready to be corrected. That's only interpretation.
So again, that's fine. That's your interpretation. Okay,
it's not interpretation. Again, if it was interpretation, then if it was interpretation, you will have to find a different translation of the Sanskrit verse. I'm not giving a different translation of Sanskrit verse.
Every translation is an interpretation. Interpretation and translation are literally synonyms. So it is your interpretation. Yes,
it's not my interpretation, because if it was mine, then other people won't have that translation. Other people have the same translation.
That's not what your interpretation means. So your interpretation means that it's the interpretation you are defending. It doesn't mean that you made it up. That's not what the sentence means. So
here's my point. My point is that the person whom you're quoting, he's not giving the original source. In my paper, for everything I say, I quote the exact Sanskrit verse, I quote the English translation, and I quote number of different authors.
Yes, I understand that you think your method is more reliable. That's your interpretation. This guy disagrees. He gets the numbers right. He is not off by 2. So your statements are factually contradicting his statements. These statements are the ones that I find when I do searches for academic papers on the topic. They are not off by 2. So something is wrong here. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe you're wrong. If they're wrong and you can show it, that's great. That would be great evidence. You can convince the consensus. But right now, the vast majority of evidence I find says that you're wrong because they're not off by 2.
Okay. The first part was very good. That that we are contradicting. There is a different opinion. I have a different opinion on that topic, and my point is that they're not giving original sources. That I think is a weakness of their argument. However, you don't want to look at it because you're not an expert, so you think it won't make much difference because you can't look at the original source.
I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if it was or wasn't or what it said.
Point number 2, you said that I'm looking at it, and the vast majority of the sources are showing 4.5 billion or 4.5 billion years, so they're not off by a factor of 2. I want to contend that. When you say vast majority of sources are saying, first of all, you have to understand 2 things here. Since you're not a scholar of this field and you're looking at like 10 search results which are showing on your Google search result while you're searching for that number, it is not a good test. Like, just over this debate, we can't say vast majority of sources. A real test will be if you were to go back and say you scan 100 papers which are published on this topic, and you, after looking at 100 papers, you make a table and you say how many of them say age of the earth this, and then you, after doing that, you say, okay, 80 papers are saying, or 70 papers are saying, or 60 papers are saying age of the earth as 4.5 billion years. Then we have a major consensus that the earth is this much years old. Since you don't have that data, you can't claim that statement that it is a vast number of people, a vast number of scholars are saying age of the Earth is 4.5 billion years. That's what I take. I don't accept that statement.
So I just went to Google Scholar, which is a reference for all academic journals on
That's right.
whatever topic, and
That's right.
I typed in Hindu age of the Earth, and these are the numbers that keep popping up. So I don't. So this isn't just like a Google search. This is an academic journal search.
The same is again. So, Tom, that's not how you make a claim about vastness or majority, because again, when you're looking at one paper, Google has this personalization filters. You understand a filter bubble? If you look up at one result like a moment ago, a minute ago, 2 minutes ago, they have personalization filters that they take your responses, and based upon that, they show you.
No, this is Google Scholar is not the same as Google. Google Scholar is a specific, like if you just type in Google Scholar, it's a separate kind of thing, like a Google specifically for academic journals.
I'm scientist, sir. You're speaking to the wrong person here. I did my master's in data recommendation systems. Google Scholar is exactly the same as Google Search. There are about 100,000 papers on each topic. They can't show you all the results on the first page. They're sorted
by the citation number. So the higher the citations, the more they go. Okay. So the origins of evil in Hindu mythology cited 412 times. The origins, classical Hindu mythology, a reader in Sanskrit Puranas cited 230 times. Handbook of Hindu mythology cited 120 times. Modeling the evolution of contingent something Hindu Kush religion cited 208 times. Like I have it specifically set to show most citations because I care about the consensus. That's a setting I have that you can set. Show most citations.
Okay, so yeah, that's additional information. So you're saying you have set the condition there, show more citations, and you're looking at first top 10 papers, and you're finding they're all saying that the age of the Earth, which is described in the Puranas, is 4.5 billion years. Okay, I'm not looking at the evidence. Let's look at it right now. Let's look up the top 100 results or top 50 results, top 30 results, and see how many of them say 4.5 billion years. That would be a fair test, isn't it?
I guess so you can do that, but as this is a reliable source, so I know for a fact this is a reliable source. It gives me reliable papers in every single topic. So this is not up for debate. This is my source, and my source says you're wrong, and these are reliable.
How can I trust your testimony there? We have.
I'm not trying to convince you. So this is about me. I'm looking at the evidence. I have a reliable source that gives me academic journals on every topic I ever wanted.
Okay. Are you looking at 50 papers? How many papers are you looking at right now? How many papers you clicked on?
I've only clicked on like 3. There's 189,000 results.
Can you look at top 20 papers and see what they say about it?
Well, I just Googled Hindu age of the Earth, so they all say this.
If 20 of them, how many of them say age of the Earth as 4.5 billion years? I would like to see what they say.
I'd have to go through every one of them, but again, this is not relevant to the point. So I don't care if you believe me or not. It's irrelevant. When I do a search, so just listen. When I do a search, every source I find on a reliable source says you're wrong. They are not off by a factor of 2. They do not say what you are saying. So based on all of the evidence I can find, based off of my research, which I do pretty well in pretty much every academic field, get it right. They do not get it wrong, like you're saying. They disagree with what you're saying. So based off of the evidence available to me, these people are more reliable than you are, as far as I can tell. I cannot see that you are more reliable than they are until you can change their minds, or until your paper gets more citations than these guys' papers. They're more reasonable to believe.
Okay. Fair enough. 2 points I would make here, because I was not saying that what you're seeing there in that paper is, I'm distrusting you with that, what you're seeing and what you're reading there in top 3 papers, what you build up. The point I was taking, what the point I was arguing against you was this: you made an assertion that vast majority of papers are saying I'm wrong, and I was making
just the ones I see, just the vast majority of the ones I see.
Yeah, so if you're saying number 3 papers, you can't claim vast. You understand there's a difference. The quality of when you use a term vast, it has a lot of meaning. You can say top 3 papers I looked up it and they were against you. I would agree with that. I have no problem with it. When you use a qualifier as vast, then that has different understanding. It has a different meaning to it than 3 or 4. Vast means some big number. So I don't think so that you can go with that assertion. But if you say 3 or 4, okay, no problem. Number 2, is that some of the papers are difficult to understand without it. But I would recommend something like, there is this, handbooks of Hinduism, Blackwell's Handbook of Hinduism, which discusses this topic in detail. There's also Wikipedia, where people try to, where people fight with each other to get some edits done. So there's some sense much more higher discrimination in terms of writing, because you really can't put a number there or fact there without arguing or making your points, making your argument there. So if you look up at those dates, and let me look it up while I'm speaking to you, like what do they say for the age of the earth, the age of the universe there? Hindu age of the earth.
So Olivel Patrick Manu's Code of Law says that according to the Manu Samrati, one of the earliest known texts describing the yugas, the length of each year is 4,800, 3,600, 2,400, and 1,200 years of the gods, respectively, giving a total of 12,000 divine years. To complete one cycle for human years, they are multiplied by 360, giving 1.728 million years for the Satya
Yuga. That's right.
And this is using the Manu Shma. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
Which is one of the first Sanskrit texts to have been translated into English at night.
That's right. Okay, so here's a link. This is a page on Hindu cosmology from the. We should look for time units. There's a time units also, I think. Time units. Let's see.
So here's another one I'm checking. The Machit Freda, the Puranas, page 139. The Blackwell Companion to Hinduism, Blackwell Publishing, page 139. Same thing.
Yeah. What does this say? Can you read to me, please?
Well, essentially it's the same thing. It just says the years in the divine years are the 4,800, 3,600, 2,400, 1,200, respectively, total of 12,000 divine years. To get the human years, you multiply by 360, giving the 1.728 million, and then the 1.296 million, and then 864,000 more numbers. So giving the total of 4.32 million
Yes.
years.
So are they saying there that that's the age of the earth?
Yeah, for human years, I think so.
No, they're never saying that. They're giving the value of that unit in terms of human years, which I mentioned. There are the human years in Bhumandala, but let's take human years. That's what they're saying. They're not saying age of the earth there. I think you're misunderstanding that term. Where does it say age of the earth is that? Can you quote that thing from the Blackwell? Now let me take it to another source, which is, of course, I don't accept Wikipedia for everything, but Wikipedia is good in the sense that people put a lot of discrimination in it. And I'm with Blackwell. Whatever you said from Blackwell, I agree with it completely. And whatever you said from previous side, but both the sources don't discuss about age of the earth. They talk about the time units. That what do those time units correspond to? Do you understand, Jump?
Sure.
Blackwell's companion didn't talk about age of the earth. It only talked about the time unit, and which I agree with it.
Age of Earth.
Now, if you go to Wikipedia, they have a section called Hindu units of time, and the Hindu units of time, there's a section called cosmic date. If you can look it up, and I guess maybe I can share the screen. I don't want to share the screen, otherwise I can't see your face. So I guess you can look at there itself. Hindu units of time. Go to the section called cosmic date, and there it says, maybe I can read, or feel like you can read. According to Puranic, Krishna's departure marks the end of the human age of Dwapar Yuga, and at the start of Kali Yuga, which is date 2. This is this. We are currently halfway through Brahma's life. You see that? That's the important point. From which Brahma manifests in the universe. We are in the 51st year, which is the Kalpa. Then we're in the first month of the 12, first Kalpa, 7th Manvantara, 28th Chaturyuga, and 4th Yuga. Let me break it down, all those things for you. So the smallest time unit is the Yuga, Kali Yuga. Then the next one is Dwapar, then Treta, and then Satyuga. The combination of that makes a Chaturyuga. 71 of those make a Manvantara. 14 of Manvantaras make a Kalpa. At the beginning of the Manvantara, there is Sandhya. And at the beginning of the Kalpa, there is Sandhya. And that is called Prati Samdhi. And that's the beginning of the day of Brahma. So the beginning of the day of Brahma corresponds to the creation of the solar system, and the end corresponds to destruction of the solar system. That's one day of Brahma. 365 such days make a year of him, and he has 100-year lifetime. So we are in the 51st year of Brahma in his first day, and in that first day we are halfway through it. That whole day kalpa is equal to 4.32 billion years, according to the cosmology you're looking at in Blackwell cosmology, which you just pulled up a moment ago. You read from it, and
Yes.
I agree with that. I agree with that. That's 4.32. That's the whole day of Brahma. But we are halfway through it. You're missing the second part. I agree with the first part. We are 4.3. The Kalpa is 4.32 billion year old long. That's what Blackwell is saying. Blackwell companion is not talking about age of the Earth. That's what I was disagreeing with. So you're right there. 4.32. I agree with 4.32. But 4.32 is the whole day of Brahma. We are halfway through it.
Yeah, it says each universe lasts for 4.32 billion years in a time period called the Kalpa, or the day of Brahma.
That's right. And again, we have to go with Sanskrit term. The Sanskrit term is each Brahmanda lasts for 4.32.
So a universe lasts as long as the solar system.
No, that's something. If you go with the Sanskrit term, the Sanskrit name is Brahmanda. Brahma is in charge of solar system. So a Brahmanda, some scholars translate it as a universe. Some people translate it as solar system. There is two different opinions on this topic of Brahmanda. So some scholars write it as universe, as I said, and some people as solar system.
So
And I have
reading here from Professor V. Krishnan something or another. Each Manavantara is preceded and followed by a period of 1.728 thousand years in every earthly.
1.728 million years.
1.728 thousand million.
No.
Yeah. Because my bad. The 3 zeros, thousand. So yeah. So every earthly universe is a Bhu-loka, will submerge underwater.
Yeah.
What
actually, the word is apa. It's not really water, but anyways, go ahead.
And this period of the deluge is known as the Manavantara Sandhya something.
Yeah, Manavantara Sandhya. That's more details. There's so much details to me. I discuss all those details in my book and in the paper also, and I can go discuss more details to use those units. So what you're bringing
so all of this seems false. So one, the universe isn't 4.3 billion years. That's the solar system.
Sorry, say one more time. I didn't get that first part.
The universe didn't begin to exist 4.3 billion years ago. The solar system did.
No. Okay. Yep. There's so many numbers I'm missing up. So first of all, the scholars, as you quoted from Blackwell's companion, they are saying that Kalpa, which is a day of Brahma, is equal to 4.32 billion years. They are not making any statement about how long ago Brahma created the Brahmanda. They're not making a statement about that. So you are confusing two things there. They're giving the transformation or the conversion of Brahma's time unit, Brahma's day, into human years. They are not saying that that's how long the Purana state, our current time period, current date to be.
Okay, so none of these numbers are half off. So you said they're off by a factor of 2. None of these numbers are off by a factor of 2.
They are. So they are. So what they're saying 4.32, I call it. From according to my cosmology is 8.64.
And what happened? What happened 8 billion years ago?
No. Okay. Okay. I have to go more slowly. I guess I have to. Can I show up a slide, because I have a slide where I discuss these time units. Maybe that may help.
Their numbers are not a factor of 2 off. They say 4.3 billion years.
I agree with that 4.32, but
right.
They're not saying that's age of the Earth. They are giving a conversion of a time unit. You're missing two things there.
Okay, you said these numbers are off by a factor of 2. How is this off by a factor of 2?
What I'm saying is that a kalpa is equal to 8.64 billion years on Earth. They are claiming kalpa is equal to 4.32 billion years. 2, they are saying they're not discussing how many years we have passed in the kalpa. I'm just saying that currently we have passed half of that kalpa, and I gave you evidence. The Wikipedia article talks about it, and I can show you other articles and the Puranic evidence to say that we are halfway through Brahma's day.
We're getting some a lot of comments in the comments section about this, and I'm a little bit confused about it too. So I want to clarify it for myself and for others. It sounds like the Puranas have this figure in it of the 4 billion years in there, and that corresponds to the scientific understanding of the age of the Earth right now. And so the argument is that here's a date that's in the Puranas that corresponds to scientific understanding. Did I get that part?
No.
Correct?
Okay. No, you didn't get that correct. So the Puranas, there are two things we will discuss here.
Let me just check. Hang on a second. Let me just check with TJump. Is that what you understood, TJump? Because I thought that was where you were coming from. Like, hey, there's this number that science has 4 billion years for the Earth. The Puranas also say 4 billion years. That seems pretty bang on.
Well, yeah. So that was the first form of the argument. He's saying all the numbers are off by 2. So
that kind of ruins the correspondence, then, right?
Sort of, but that's a separate argument. So I'm making an argument here about, are the academics numbers off by 2? Because he said all the academics numbers are off by a factor of 2. So if these numbers are off by a factor of 2, wait a minute, that's not off by a factor of 2. That's about right. So if that was off by a factor of 2, then they're saying that the Kalpa began 8 billion years ago, because they're saying that the whole thing, the whole Kalpa is 4.32 billion, and that's every single one of them says that. Every single one of them says the universe, the full Kalpa, is 4.32 billion. Now I extrapolated that to mean the age of the Earth because of the correlation. Maybe I should have been more clear. They all say the full Kalpa is this long.
Yeah.
So there's a correspondence there, or like an agreement, or that there's something interesting here to look at, that the Puranas have the age of the Earth as one of these kind of cosmological units of time, and that's worth investigating. And so what I'm hearing is that Sidarth, you're saying that number is actually twice that, in which case doesn't that erode the entire premise or the entire kind of hypothesis that there's something interesting to look at here if you double those numbers?
Let me steel man his argument. So his argument is that the numbers it gives for the full thing, there's additional dates in there, and the additional dates are what actually corresponds to what we see in our universe. So he's not saying that those numbers that I just read off are what's corresponding. He's saying that it's the additional dates, like the one about the extinction, which are not the full length of the Kalpa. Those are other dates mentioned in other parts of the Puranas, and those are the ones that correspond to the age of the Earth, the age of the solar system, the age of the extinction. So the full Kalpa is not the one he's saying corresponds. He's saying the other ones are the ones that corresponds.
Is that accurate, Sidarth?
No, it's not accurate. Okay. I didn't do a good, we didn't, okay, here's the thing. I think we didn't go deeply into the topic of how I got the dates. I think I should go deeply into it and jump. Actually, rightly mentioned at the beginning of the talk itself, it would have been nice if I'd gone through the Sanskrit verses and given the whole breakdown, so this confusion would not have happened.
Yeah,
so I accept.
Tom TJump brought that up. But people are saying here that they're saying that we need to see what Hindus, this is Cis Progman ad hoc, we need to see what Hindu scholars said before the current scientific age of the Earth was established, because people in the comments, especially having not seen any of the source material, hypothesizing that they just made this up after they found out what the dates were, and they're they're interpreting their scriptures to fit with current scientific understanding. So it does, for someone who doesn't have access to the source material, sound like that's what you're doing, Siddharth. You're like, I can make these numbers fit if I multiply them by 2. So that's what people are hearing.
Okay, now that's point number 2. I will answer that also. That's a really interesting point you made, and thank you, Cis Prong Man, and thank you, Josh, for bringing that out, and thank you, Josh, for patiently listening and trying to understand this topic. And I'm sorry that I'm making you think too much. So I'm going to show a couple of slides here to help solve this topic. Give more detail on this topic. So first of all, let me share my slide here. Slides here. Okay. Application window. Okay, so current slide. So first of all, these are the Puranic time units. So there is the Kalpa, the Manvantara, and Divya Yuga. Now, these are the units the years you see here. These are universally accepted by all scholars. 4.32. That's the current consensus. That's what a kalpa is equal to. 4.32. So when you look up online, you will find this. That how long is the day of Brahma? 4.32. How long is the Manvantara? 306.72. How long is Divya Yuga? 4.32 million years. And then Kali Yuga years, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. Okay. So on this point, are you with me, Jump? Do you understand that point? That
Yes, that's
these are
I read that like 20 times from 20 different papers. They all say that. Yes.
So this is the first point. Now, what I'm saying is that these units are off by a factor of 2. These are all off a factor of 2. But these units, let me finish my point. These units do not correspond to age of the Earth. These are just conversion of Sanskrit time units into our Earth years. If you want to find the age of the Earth, we have to find out in this time system of the Puranas, where are we? And that is why we have to go to the second diagram, which I will show in a moment. Let's see if we can go this is the age of the Earth. So currently we are in this day of Brahma. We are halfway through it. 6 manvantras have passed. We're in the 7th manvantara, and we are 27 chaturyugas have passed. So we are halfway through it, that kalpa. So remember, we saw it earlier, that this is the kalpa. Kalpa is a time unit, and this is how the Brahma's time unit is. The beginning of it, he creates the solar system. At the end, he destroys the solar system. And currently, we are, according to the Puranas, we are in the 7th manvantara. And I showed you Wikipedia, and I can show you a number of other academic sources. Practically all academic sources will agree with me. You can show me any academics that currently we are in the 7th manvantara in the kalpa. I can show you 100 papers. If you find me any paper which goes against it, I'm happy to be corrected. All scholars will agree that we are in the 7th manvantara of the current kalpa.
But aren't you saying that those numbers should be doubled? Isn't that your whole shtick?
So let me finish my point. So if we use previous time units, which are currently cosmology, the current Puranic scholars accept that 6 manvantaras and 27 chaturyugas, the date for the age of the Earth or the solar system would be 2.3 something billion solar years. If you double it, it comes to 4.653 or 4.652. The kalpa, the whole kalpa, which the Puranic scholars, current Puranic scholars say to be 4.32 billion years, that is 8.64 in my model, in the model which I'm presenting. So that's where the factor of 2 comes. This is where the factor of 2 comes. I'm not sure if Jump, you got it or not. Maybe I can explain one more time.
So what does the 8 billion years correspond to then? Like, what's the scientific observed kind of event that what is that?
Lifetime of the sun, from the beginning to the end.
The sun?
Yes. Solar system. Here you go. So the age of the sun and the demise of the sun. The beginning of the sun is the beginning of the day of Brahma. The end of the death of the sun is the end of the day of Brahma. And that whole course, that is equal to 8.64 plus the sun there. So around 9 billion years. And that's exactly what the modern astrophysicists say.
And the sun's supposed to last like 10 billion years at least.
No, not really. I've discussed here that there are different models there currently. They're not really sure. Some models say that
NASA.gov, the star like our sun will burn for about 10 billion years.
Or 9 or 10, it does say.
9 or 10.
I'm looking at the same one. But they currently estimated at 4.5 billion years, it says.
Yeah, currently. So currently we are here in this present sun, and that's where we are on the day of Brahma, midway. And that's what I discussed here in this previous diagram, that we are halfway through Brahma's day.
I see. So the experimental validation of this requires another 4 billion years to check out.
That's right. If you want to check the end of the Brahma's day, but
it's pretty hard to argue with that. There's an experiment.
The first one is pretty good. The first one is pretty good. 4.562.784, and the modern scientific value is 4.567. The difference is 0.08%.
TJump is dropping in and out.
But Josh, do you understand the
Jump
point?
Jump is back. Yeah, I got that. Are you guys okay if we start taking questions from the
that sounds good to me.
comments?
Yep, sure.
Okay, because people are going off in there, and it's like 20 minutes to roll here. So
There's definitely some time dilation here. I didn't realize it was an hour and 40 minutes into it. I thought it was like 20 minutes ago when we started.
yeah. Okay, so Larry's asking, how do you know the beginning date?
The Purana state that we are halfway through it. So that's how you find out. Like if suppose I were to
I
say
see.
that Josh, his whole day is equal to 24 hours, and currently he's 12 hours into it. So then 12 hours ago, that's when his day started.
That's pretty good. It's 11:38 a.m. here in New Zealand. Why am I the featured speaker here? Let me change this up like this. Yeah. Okay. Let's grab some other ones. Okay. Well, this was Sysprog Man ad hoc's question about this. We need to see what Hindu scholars said before the current scientific age of the Earth was established. It seems like you both kind of agree on this, that these numbers were known and of interest or dismissed before the scientific understanding came about. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think there was I don't think it was ad hoc made up after that. I think it's been about the same understanding of years since it was written, as far as I know.
Yeah. I'm only adding a factor of 2. Apart from that, all the numbers are there from the previous, like all the scholars agree with it.
I have no idea where he's getting that factor of 2 from. Like that, I have never seen that before. But
again,
4 point.
If you don't agree with the factor of 2, still but do you understand the point which I'm saying? How am I dating how I'm dating age of the Earth? Because we are halfway through Brahma's day. Do you understand that point or not yet? I can repeat one more time if we don't get it.
No, I understand what you're doing. I just don't think it makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, isn't that an example of like post-fact manipulation of the numbers to fit the data? You're like, if we multiply everything by 2, it fits, but you have no prima facie reason to do that. You did it after you got the data.
But again, if it was only one date, I would take it. But when you have a dozen dates and which match so accurately, you can't do post hoc. Suppose if you work in statistics, you can try to create a correlation. But when you have 12 such dates, and when the difference is 0.1%, it's not an easy thing to do.
So you're saying that there are more dates that correlate than the age of the Earth. Yeah. If you multiply them by 2, you find it overlays onto the observations even more strongly.
In fact, just these 3 are enough. How can you have a post hoc system where you multiply by them by 2 and you have a difference of 0.1%, 0.2, 0.1%, 0.3% for these very sophisticated scientific facts? It's not easy to do that it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I can see how you do that, especially if you're a data scientist, right? Which is your background.
Still, okay, suppose I would tell exactly how much money you have in your pocket today, tomorrow, and 100 days before. And we have never met. And I tell all those numbers off by factor of 2. Would you call that I'm doing some magic? I'm reading your mind or not?
What do you think about that, TJump? Sysprog Man's asking, what's the justification for multiplying by 2? And here, he's saying that you get a stronger correspondence. And we may not understand why it's off by 2, but it looks like it is. What do you think about that, TJump?
Yeah, I think it's pretty weird. Like if you tell me how much money I have in my pocket, but you're always off by a half. Like that's really weird. Either maybe you just got lucky, or maybe you're crazy and just trying to troll everyone. Like who knows? But you're off by a factor of 2, so you're not right.
Well, it wouldn't be lucky. It sounds like it would be a units conversion.
Yeah,
units conversion.
It could be a misinterpretation. Anyway, you get my point.
Yeah, I think it would have been good to, as TJump mentioned right at the beginning, to have the primary source material and then to make that case right at the start, because there was like a strong agreement on, hey, there's something interesting here, the age of the Earth, the 4 billion years. And then, this is really where it departed from the TJump's read. He's obviously very familiar with this, right? Like a lot of people who are watching today are like, what are they even talking about? Manvantaras, Satya Yuga, Kalpas. TJump's like, yo, right in there with it. And so I think that crucial point kind of got buried in a lot of the like even if people watching this, they don't know what cherry picking is. 70% of Americans, apparently, according to TJump. How many Americans know what a Manvantara or a Kalpa is?
-7.
This one went really into the other zone. So what was the actual argument then? Like, it turned into like this thing is actually off by a factor of 2, which is some kind of original hypothesis that you got from correlating the data. But I mean, people were also saying like, next thing he's going to say is therefore Krishna is true, right? And that's where TJump, you went there.
Well, that was
early in the piece.
That wasn't relevant to the argument. That's usually just a shorthand, because I was assuming that was normally the case most theists make is there's some accurate part of my holy book, therefore the deity is true. But that was irrelevant to the point I was making. So if that wasn't the claim that he was trying to make, that's fine. That wouldn't make a difference one way or the other. And
so what was the point that you were making, TJump?
Was about like, where does this factor of 2 stuff come from? It was at that time I was arguing, if we are supposed to take the Puranas seriously, then we should be able to use them to find out accurate facts about the world. He's picked a few accurate facts, so then I was asking about other facts to say, well, does it get the other facts right? And that's where it's like, oh, there's human beings who existed 250 million years ago. Like, nope, it does not get the other facts right, so we should not trust this document. Even it got a few right, okay, didn't get all of them right. Most of them got wrong. So I would say that it's not a reliable source, even though it did get a few right. These are the best guesstimates of any religious document ever, but it still got most things wrong.
Okay, well then Siddhartha's point was like, hey, I've discovered that if you actually multiply the numbers by 2, it gets even more things right. So it looks like there's some kind of units conversion error. It's talking about the amount of money you have in your pocket in half dollars. I don't even think that's
I was granting the ages from the start, because I think without multiplying them by 2, you get the right numbers. So I don't know why you need to multiply them by 2. But even if I granted all of those ages, it still gets everything else wrong. Like, there were no human beings 250 million years ago in any dimensions.
Well, okay. How can you make that claim?
I was just going to say the same thing, but let's have that conversation. Go for it.
Because of how the universe operates. If we look at how the universe formed in the Big Bang, there is a specific time frame in which stars can form and things with solar systems can form and the Goldilocks zone can form. To have life beings exist, it takes a certain amount of billions of years. And so the time frame presented by the Purushanas is just wrong. It does not correspond to reality.
Well, you're mistaking 2 things here. One, I'm not claiming that there were human beings on Earth. You made the claim there were no human beings in higher dimensions. I'm saying how you back that up. You're again talking about
all of those dimensions were also from the Big Bang. All of the 11 dimensions in string theory, all of dimensions, same Big Bang, same entropy.
You have an instrument by which you can inquire into higher dimensions. I mean, maybe you can tell the physicists; they'll be happy to use an instrument.
Well, this is what I meant when I told you that the way you're using dimension is not like the way the physicists are using dimension. In physics, all of those different models of dimensions are combinations of principles, particles, and laws that have been verified in physics. So all of the dimensions in string theory are all dimensions that are related to the Big Bang. They're all of them. They didn't exist independent. They can't exist independently of the Big Bang in string theory.
Big Bang. 251 million years ago. You're saying 251 million years ago, there cannot be human beings in higher dimensions. And I'm asking you, how do you have an instrument, or how do you inquire into other dimensions? I mean, we're not talking about
in physics. All of the dimensions are connected. They're all intertwined. They all came from the Big Bang. So they all have the same limitations.
They're connected.
They could.
I'm sorry. You have to study high dimensional physics or mathematics, because I mean, there is nothing I can do about understanding the simple point that when you have higher dimensions, they can be lower dimensional planes which are parallel to each other. Which means there can be.
That's wrong. That is not how dimensions work in string theory. Ed Witten, M theory. That is not how it works. No.
Read up M theory. Read up string theory. More sincerely, ask a physics scholar. We can have this discussion.
Tell me how many spatial dimensions are there in string theory?
There are different variations of it. Some of them say 11. Some of them 30.
It's 9. The answer is 9. There are 9 spatial dimensions in string theory.
There are different variations of it. There's not a one variation of it, of
No,
string
Ed
theory.
Witt actually combined all of them. He solved the problems of string theory and combined them all into M theory. I actually know this stuff. I've actually researched this stuff. You are wrong.
Yeah, so, okay. How about that?
You're completely
Because-
wrong.
Okay, here's the thing. Why don't you go and ask a physicist and come back to me, and we can have.
I have.
another.
I've literally talked with them about this on my channel. Like I have.
You know what? We don't even actually need to go there. I'm picking up on this philosophy thing. It sounds like the substance of this argument is I have an unprovable, undisprovable hypothesis about how humans existed 250 million years ago. Okay, I got it. And then TJump says, no, that can't happen. But to prove an absolute negative like that is very difficult to do. So, I mean, either of those could be true, and there's really no way of conclusively establishing that. So isn't this just a matter of faith in this case?
Well, no, because if he's using dimensions like they're used in string theory, then he's wrong. So if he's making up a new kind of dimension that has nothing to do with physics, then maybe. But if they're the physics dimensions, he's wrong.
So there is not physics dimensions. Mathematics is a common language, is a language of physics. It's not like there are special different dimensions in physics than the dimensions in mathematics. Mathematics is a language. I'm sorry. This is the basics of higher dimensions, that a lower dimensional plane can be parallel to another lower dimensional plane in a higher dimensional world.
But even if you prove that point, you still haven't proved that humans exist in a higher dimension 250 million years ago. Hypothetically, you might be able to establish that could be true, but it doesn't.
Yeah, as I'm saying,
prove anything.
I'm not proving it. I'm going against the statement which Jump is making a very, very solid claim. He's saying, and I think he's overstepping from his, there. He's saying there cannot be humans in higher dimensions. And what I'm saying is that there can be. That's the whole point of the the understanding of higher dimensions. What I'm saying is that there can be. You cannot say they cannot. I'm saying that I cannot prove they exist. What I'm saying is you cannot prove they don't exist.
Okay. But then really, if there's something you can prove, you can or cannot prove, really, where's the value in that? It's like magical leprechauns, or elves that make gifts that Santa brings down the chimney. You can't disprove it, so it could be true. Here, Sysprogman ad hoc he summarizes it like this. He says, yes, humans exist in higher dimensions 250 million years ago. You can't disprove it, so I win. Lol.
No, I'm not saying I'm winning there. What I'm saying is that Jump made a very serious, a very strong assertion. And I have a problem with that. That he made an assertion that there cannot be human beings 50 million years ago in higher dimensions. There cannot be any being in higher dimensions. That's what he's saying 250 million years ago. What to say of now? And I have a problem with that. Maybe we can have another debate on that. Human beings in higher dimensions. And I can disprove it because he's making a very strong claim.
But isn't it the case, though, that once you create this higher dimensional thing, you can basically say anything that is, because really the argument is not that the Puranas make 5 predictions that are accurate, but they didn't predict 7 things, or, there are no dinosaurs. They didn't predict 20 things. You really need to have, it has 20 predictions that are wrong in addition to the 5 that are correct. Therefore, they're a lucky guess. But if you introduce this idea of higher dimensions, you can now explain any missing predictions that we didn't see as like, oh, that was a higher dimensional thing, which I think that if I've understood TJump, your argument, that's pretty much what you're saying here is like, okay, it said it got that date right, but it says there are humans 250 million years ago and there weren't. So therefore it's substantively incorrect. And the other stuff is a lucky guess.
Right. That's what he brought up about cherry picking.
Right.
And that's
cherry picking. Sorry for the 70% of Americans who are watching who don't know what cherry picking is. It's when you choose only some of the portions of your argument to defend, and the ones that are indefensible, you pretend they don't exist.
Yeah. So that's a good point. That's what exactly you summarized very well. That I may be accused of cherry picking, and that's what I'm saying. That all the dates which are given in the Puranas are they conform to what do you call significant events, the history of the earth and the future of the earth and the solar system and universe, and the descriptions and the accounts of people, they're all higher dimensional, so they are unfalsifiable. That's my proposition, and I have more points to discuss that if you want to hear, but I cannot be accused of cherry picking because I'm considering all the dates which are given. And that is why Chum brought the point out. He said, what happened in the previous manvantara? And then I was discussing the Cambrian explosion and the first species with poisonous glands. And then he was asking me, what happened that manvantara, this manvantara, what about the future? I discussed all that, that
Okay, so you wanted to keep this debate on the dates only.
Yeah.
But then, you did say that 250 million years ago there was a human kingdom, which is the point that Tom TJump jumped onto.
I'm saying the Puranas is saying that.
Hang on, let me say that again. You said that there were humans 250 million years ago, which was the point that Tom jumped onto.
But that's the cherry picking thing. So even if you just want to pick the dates, that's cherry picking the dates and not the events it describes. So that would still be cherry picking.
I'm not picking them. I'm saying that the Puranas are describing the higher dimensional world. Why would it be cherry picking if I'm using a different model to explain them? It'd be cherry picking if I was ignoring them. I'm not ignoring them. I'm saying they're unfalsifiable. There are two ways to look. I'm not saying that they can. I'm saying the cherry picking is if I were to take some data points and they are the similar data points. Suppose there were 15 other dates and I ignored them, but I'm not ignoring the dates. What I'm saying is that there is a correlation in dates. The descriptions, when you take it, there is a qualitative match, but you can't find an exact match because they correspond to a higher dimensional world. Here's the point I'm making. The point I'm making here is that the Puranas are describing a world which is higher dimensional, which we cannot inquire. We don't have instruments to inquire into. If we can, then we can test. Then I can be tested. But presently, physics is limited. Maybe in future, physicists can inquire into higher dimensional world, and then those things can also be tested.
We got 5 minutes to the top of the hour, and as well as educating people about what cherry picking means and what manvantaras and yugas are, we're also committed to educating the dance floor about philosophy and logic. So I'd like, if we could, to kind of wrap up on this point. TJump, you're pointing out here that Siddhartha he has these correspondence between dates and scientific data. Siddhartha, you're saying you're not cherry picking, but some of the correspondences rely on some unfalsifiable multi-dimensional world. And TJump, you're saying that is in fact cherry picking. So TJump, could you explain how that is?
Yeah, because some of the data points are not dates. I'm going to only consider the dates, but not the other data points of everything else it says. Like if you consider everything else it says, which is all wrong, and only consider the things that it says that are right, that's literally cherry picking. He's just cherry picking the category, saying, "Oh, the dates are right, but everything else, that's higher dimensional stuff."
But isn't it his introducing the unfalsifiable higher dimensions like not cherry picking? It's I don't know what that would be called, where you bring in some additional complexity to your hypothesis.
Ad hoc reasoning. But that would be he's taking the facts that agrees and he's saying these correspond to reality, and then saying the other ones are the higher dimensional. So he's cherry picking the facts that correspond to our reality, that are measurable in some sense, and saying these ones aren't measurable in our reality. These ones are measurable in our reality.
Okay, Siddhartha, is it because you said at the beginning that your argument is not that these dates are correct, therefore Krishna is God, and if you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for 2 years, you can get a hot blonde, or it might be even less to get the hot blondes. The experience of Krishna. I just threw that number out there. Maybe it's 4 years in your model since everything's doubled. But isn't it the case that you're making the argument that since there's a strong correspondence between these dates and what we can see, and then I'm introducing this unfalsifiable multidimensional model, that the kind of the utility or the drive to introduce the unfalsifiable higher dimensional model is because the strong correspondence of the dates is there, it does indicate that this higher multidimensional reality may exist. Was that what you're saying?
Something. That's definitely there. What I'm saying is it may exist. That higher dimensional world may be there. We can't inquire into it. More than that, what I'm saying is that we should appreciate an important point, which actually TJump does appreciate, that this correspondence between these dates and the correspondence is very interesting and very intriguing. That how can an ancient yogis who don't have any access to technology, who sages who have no access to modern technology, how can they come up? How can they write such precise values in the text for the dates, the universe and the age of the sun, age of the universe, and age of the earth? And what else did they write about in the Puranas? And what took science last 200 years, 150 years to reach? Sages had that mentioned as just precursory, as something like as something extra. The main message of the Puranas is self-realization. So the point I wanted to come here is that we may, after seeing this data point, appreciate Puranas much more and look into Puranas for what else is there which can help us in our pursuit of knowledge. Because that's what I think the science is. Science is all about pursuit of knowledge. It's about inquiring into absolute truth, finding out what's absolute truth. Now, what took science last 150 years to find out, how old the universe is? Sages are already stating it. Maybe it may be the case when the sages say that this is how you can achieve the full potential of humanity, full potential of human life. This is how we can have peace in human society. Maybe those principles of lifestyle, maybe they may work. Why don't we try them? Why don't we give them a chance? Why don't we give them an option? Like here, suppose the scientist comes down and he says he has found the coronavirus vaccine. He has found the structure of the coronavirus, and he makes a claim. You may say, I doubt you, I don't accept you. And there's some other scientists, they say, okay, he also says something and we doubt it. But there's only one way to check it, by trying the method. So what I'm saying is that Puranic sages are giving a method, a lifestyle which we try to follow.
Yes, I would just say, and I know I was looking at your papers, Sidarth, and I saw that you wrote one about AI identification of, comments and communities and social media. That if you doubt the structure of the coronavirus, you shouldn't say that on Facebook. Otherwise, your account will be disabled. Speaking from experience. Just to wrap up, Cis Progman Ad Hoc says, although I'll admit the very large numbers in Hinduism is impressive for such an old religion, we have numbers. We have the biggest numbers, tremendous, huge numbers. So one thing we've been doing here on the show is at the end, just to wrap up, is asking each of the interlocutors to summarize the position of the other, just to demonstrate that we did reach a point where there was some mutually intelligible conversation in the last 2 hours. So if I could invite you to do that.
Should I start first, or Jump? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, his position is that the dates in the Puranas are accurate and correspond to reality, but they're off by 2 in most academic journals.
And Jump's point is that the dates, they are exceptionally, they are very interesting, that they're matching, they're agreeing with modern science. However, I am cherry picking the data points, and other data points which are given in the Puranas are false. Therefore, they should be rejected.
And so that's an accurate summary. You both agree that that captures your position, perspective.
Sure. Seems good enough.
Okay, great. Well, look, I want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. This is like peak 2020 with only a few days to go. I'd have to say that Sidarth, your kind of like command and knowledge of the technical aspects of the Vedic cosmology is extremely impressive. And TJump, I'd have to say that you are probably one of the, if not the only atheist debater who could go toe to toe with that and actually understand what's being said in there. I mean, pretty much all atheist debaters understand what cherry picking is, but to be able to identify when someone's cherry picking from the Manvantaras and the Yugas is probably a unique skill. So it was a real pleasure to be with you and to witness this conversation. And there may be the opportunity to circle back around on this and go for round 2 at some stage, because we did just get to pretty much 1 point in this in this conversation. Or maybe 2 points if we were using your model, Siddhartha. It could have been 2. Yeah, so thank you both for taking the time out of your day to tune in for this. And have a very Merry Christmas, or Happy Holidays, I guess you'd say. It's not Hanukkah in the Hindu tradition. I don't know if there is a corresponding co-opted holiday in Hinduism for Christmas, but you're in the United States, so I'm going to say Happy Holidays, which I think is the politically correct term to use. And a Happy New Year. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, and thanks to all our viewers for tuning in, especially Sis Progman Ad Hoc and Larry Jarbo for powering that comment stream.